Thank you all for being here with us this evening. Thank you for your patience as we set up the tech. I think you will all agree that it will have been worth it because we need the sun to set so that you can see the film properly. So, my name's Amy, so I am an impact producer on this wonderful film. What is an impact producer? We are the ones who want to help make this film make a real difference in the world. If I can put it in a nutshell, that's our role. The art and the artists come before you. You can't make great change without great art. We know this. We are cultural activists. And our role is to mediate between the art and the policy sectors and help the politicians who have the power to make the change see the film and understand what really they have in their hands and how they can make a difference. So the aim of having the discussion first here tonight is to give you a bit of a framing. The clue is in the title, Invisible Nation. This is a Taiwan. People might think they know something about Taiwan. They often don't, or they often get it wrong, and that's partly why Vanessa Hope has made this film, is to re-educate us all and to energize us to want to be part of Taiwan's future and to see how Taiwan is part of our future. So if I can welcome my panelists to the stage, we're going to have a discussion that helps frame this film, that gives you some things to think about as you watch it, and hopefully inspires you as you're watching it to even think, what could I do? How could I be part of this? So may I welcome to the stage Vanessa Hope, who is the director of Invisible Nation. Give her a very warm hand. Maysing, who has many titles. She is a researcher, she's been a housewife, she's been the head of a venture capital organization, she is a human rights activist protecting the democratization of Taiwan. And Mareike Ohlberg, who is a senior fellow at the German Marshall Institute and very nice to expert on this topic. We're very thrilled to have her here this evening. If you speak and read German, there was a piece published by her in the press just this week, and I think that that's worth reading for yourselves and sharing among your friends. So thank you all panelists for joining me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am going to sit on my microphone. Hang on.
Is one of them going to be
I
passed?
think there we go. I now have two.
Okay.
That's dangerous.
That works.
Okay, I'm going to start with you, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Because this is your film, this is your journey, as much as it is the journey of this wonderful woman, President Tsai Ing-wen, and how you have been following her for such a long time, and you are steeped, I think, more than almost anyone I've met. I think filmmakers, especially documentarians, become almost like PhD researchers, the amount of time you spend in your topic. And there are many misconceptions around Taiwan. Now tell us, what was your thinking when you started making this film? How has the evolution been, and what is it that you want audiences to take away and think about as your message from Invisible Nation?
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you to Mareike from the German Marshall Fund. Thank you to Maysing, who's in our film. Thank you to all of you at the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy for joining us this evening. We were just discussing how I began actually studying Chinese in China. And when I worked at a think tank called the Council on Foreign Relations in New York, I was also focused on China. This was the late 1990s, early 2000s, and all the world was optimistic about economic engagement with China, leading to political liberalization there. And more than that, we really weren't talking about Taiwan. The idea was kind of, don't talk too much about Taiwan, and that issue will sort itself out. And diplomatically, it's wildly complicated, the different attempts at peace negotiations, the different attempts at diplomatic agreements by the United States, by Europe, other countries in the world. And when I went to Taiwan for the first time, it happened to be the year that they transitioned from authoritarianism to democracy. So I personally became wildly fascinated with this country because I borrowed a teacher's camera for the first time and ran around filming during Lee Teng-hui's inauguration. He's the first directly elected president of Taiwan. And he was a truly transformative figure in their history. And he allowed for not only more parties to flourish after martial law. This is all going to be in the film, actually, so this is really just an introduction to the film.
I think we've got to leave some spoiler.
Yeah, Lee Teng-hui is in the film. My footage from 1995-96 is in the film. But the misconceptions about Taiwan are huge, and I know Maysing will have more to say about the fact that the People's Republic of China has never controlled Taiwan for a single day. So the biggest misconception, and what people don't really understand, especially because it's not clarified much in the news, is that when China claims Taiwan since ancient times, or as a province, or as a part of China, or uses diplomatic tools like this One China principle, which is how they put it, versus the US One China policy, which uses diplomatic language to say, actually, we acknowledge your position, China, toward Taiwan, but that doesn't mean we actually agree with you. All of this is obfuscating, intentional diplomatic obfuscation to keep some strategic ambiguity. All of this is oppression of Taiwan, because Taiwan is a de facto country. It's not part of China. And we give you that history in the film so that you can better understand just the facts. Because I think if we want any kind of truth and reconciliation, we should begin with facts and history.
Well, I think you touched on so many things there. And I think it's fascinating when you say people don't talk about Taiwan, and the language around Taiwan is even confusing, but it's not done by chance, that language. And Mareike, I'd be interested to hear from you in this perspective, because it's very intentional, this obfuscation of China. It's not only done as a protective mechanism to maintain a diplomatic pathway through the tricky straits, but it's also intentional by China to keep Taiwan invisible. Can you talk a little bit into that and why this disinformation that is being propagated around Taiwan and is so kind of aggressive and damaging?
So for the People's Republic of China, being able to control the narrative about Taiwan is a key priority. So there are, obviously, in many ways, China wants to be able to control global conversations more generally, but Taiwan is a top priority. So it does two things. One is, it spreads all kinds of misinformation about Taiwan. That is one side of it, disinformation, I should say, because it's intentional, such as, this democratic system that Taiwan has, there's only chaos and nothing is working, and look at all the chaos over there, and there is no chance, Taiwan has no chance, etc. So that is intentionally spread disinformation. But more than that, China also wants the rest of the world to stick to China's way of talking about Taiwan, to use its terminology. And I think this to me is the most insidious aspect of what I have seen, because it's actually beginning to work. Let me give a couple of examples. For instance, in recent years, China has increasingly insisted that others use not Taiwan or not any other names to refer to Taiwan, which again has never been controlled by the PRC, but Taiwan, China. So now you see people in academic publications that publish in geology or in other fields, they use Taiwan, China. You see this popping up in established academic journals. You see when you go on airline websites and you want to book flight. You want to book a flight to Taiwan. You can't. You're going to book a flight to somewhere to Taiwan, China, or sometimes China. You want to book a hotel in Taiwan. That is increasingly becoming the case, that hotel websites have been forced to change how they refer to Taiwan, not as Taiwan, but as Taiwan, China. So because the People's Republic of China is able to use not just propaganda and disinformation, but also its economic leverage, it's actually beginning to force everybody around the world to change this, and this is helping to make Taiwan invisible and to erase Taiwan. And just imagine you come from a country and suddenly you can't find your country on the airline websites anymore, on hotel websites anymore. It's really quite a paradox situation, but that is the situation that Taiwan is in.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do, Vanessa.
It's increasingly urgent that these confusions and this disinformation get clarified, because it is a strategy on the part of the People's Republic of China to make the world agree that Taiwan is their territory in order for them to invade, to have what they believe is their right to control blockade, take over, or invade Taiwan without any other country interfering. They call it foreign interference. They explicitly intend to keep this attack silent and theirs, and they're looking for a short, swift victory, and they do not want anyone in the international community, any other country, getting in the way. So for them, it's not just language, it's a military strategy.
Absolutely. I'll come back to Mareike in just 1 second. I'd love to hear the thoughts of Maysing here, because you've talked really powerfully in other conversations that we've had around the film this week about how the UN is a family, and yet it's like Taiwan is the orphan, that Taiwan is not part of this UN family, and that's also in itself really damaging. But you've also talked about the potential hope there of perhaps there being some way of China and Taiwan both being recognized. Some, not necessarily in an official capacity, because we know that this is a longer term goal, but some hope there. How do you see the struggles with Taiwan's international recognition and representation? And how I suppose, as we've just had election, what's your hope for coming into the future time?
Yes, thank you, Amy. Thank you to make this event, and I want to thank you, Vanessa. Vanessa not only is a master in the foreign relations, and actually her family's 3 generations is in the film making, and her husband is there. That help, you know. As a Taiwanese person, that I feel Taiwan's issue is a human rights issue, because we don't have the vote in the so-called big family of the human being. Whenever I heard the Secretary General of the United Nations say, United Nations is a big family for the human being, I feel very painful. I think that the Taiwanese people are the human being. And that reminds me that in the Western country, the women don't have the voting right until 1920. A black person in the US don't have the voting right on the 1960 until 1960. So Taiwanese people, we don't have voting right, and we don't have the voice in the international community, and that's why the movie is called The Invisible Nation. For many organization or any listing of the, for the statistics, Taiwan is not inside. But inside they will say China. And I think this movie, later we're going to see it says very clearly about Taiwan's past, how we struggle to be a democratic country. We have been in martial law for 30 years. And after, it is very ironic, when the Chiang Kai-shek time is an authoritarian regime, is a member of the Security Council. And when Taiwan become a democratic country, no one wants to recognize us. It's very ironic. So I hope I'm very happy that Amy, you said, we as a people, we can affect the political leaders. Because sometimes the political leader didn't tell the truth. That's how I feel.
What do you think, Mareike? Can we affect the political leaders? Will we ever see China and Taiwan represented separately and together?
I am not very hopeful about any kind of official recognition, but I think that's fine. I don't think that we need to have official diplomatic recognition in order to be able to show to everybody that Taiwan's status the way it is not, it's not part of the PRC, and to also show that countries like Germany, like the UK, like America, like other countries have an interest in Taiwan remaining a de facto independent country, that we have a huge interest in that, and there are exchanges we can establish with Taiwan, more close exchanges that integrate Taiwan into existing institutions, that make sure that you stay in touch with Taiwan, and that also allow us to credibly communicate to the PRC that if it tries to use force to change the status quo, that is going to have very severe consequences. And for that, we do need to integrate Taiwan more closely into the existing order. And that, to me, is the main priority. I think it's good that there are still some smaller countries that recognize Taiwan, but that in the end is not going to save Taiwan. We need to integrate it fully, not fully, but at least to the best of our abilities into the international order, to also be able to demonstrate that we have a vested interest in Taiwan staying a free and open society that does not become part of an authoritarian regime. Especially after, as Maysing has just said, it is a country that has fought for its own democracy. This is not, Taiwanese people know what they would be going towards if they got conquered by the PRC. So we need to show that we have an interest in Taiwan staying as it is.
Absolutely. Vanessa, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I've been thinking, listening to both of you, the question of change and the amount of time it takes to arrive at that change, because what Maysing was speaking about is how when Chiang Kai-shek, who was part of the nationalist party that lost the civil war to the communists in '49 and fled to Taiwan, and imposed a military dictatorship because he planned to take back China, because he was saying there's only one China, but it's ours, where Mao Zedong of the Communist Party in Beijing was saying there's one China and it's ours. So because the United States was initially recognizing and supporting the Nationalist Party and Chiang Kai-shek, they got the China seat. The Republic of China on Taiwan held the China seat in the United Nations from its founding after World War II until 71, 72, when Nixon and Kissinger traveled to Beijing. It was clear there was going to be a change in diplomatic recognition on the part of the US from Taiwan to China, and other country in the in the UN, who was not supportive of leaving Beijing out, agreed to have Beijing come in and take the one China seat at the time. So under the Republic of China name, Taiwan got kicked out. But as Maysing speaks to the people of Taiwan who lived in Taiwan before the Nationalist Party arrived, never had a voice, and the people of Taiwan still don't have a voice in the UN in their future. And the principle of self-determination is something that the UN believes in and agrees to. But now is the fact that China is so powerful and part of the UN Security Council, there's very little room to maneuver and very little possibility other than this resolution 2758 that Taiwan could be allowed in, maybe in an observer status and in international organizations. But it's all become urgent, what Mareike was saying, because after China cracked down on Hong Kong and imposed a national security law, after Russia invaded Ukraine and Xi Jinping and Putin are close, and Xi Jinping is threatening, very clearly saying they're not renouncing the use of force toward Taiwan. It could happen soon. Militarily, they're more prepared than they ever had been before in the 90s. And the 90s had actually been an opportunity, as Maysing said, when Taiwan became a democracy and China was still not powerful, that would have been a perfect time to recognize Taiwan, come up with this two-state solution, one China, one Taiwan, bring Taiwan into the UN under the name Taiwan. None of that happened because countries were focused on the market of China, and when China entered the World Trade Organization, it did not focus on anything but getting rich and powerful and being able to militarily keep the United States out of the Taiwan Strait. And in fact, now it can. So the question of what happens to Taiwan is more dangerous and threatening to the world than what's going on with Ukraine, because if China invades Taiwan, it will involve the US, it will involve Japan, Australia, many other countries in the first island chain that Taiwan is the linchpin of, and this will be World War III. So the urgency of a diplomatic answer for Taiwan now has a strategic angle from the perspective of democracies around the world, because if we don't want to see another country be invaded and people hurt and another democracy go, we need to make sure it's clear to Beijing that we will not allow that to happen. And the only way to have leverage with a dictator is to have solidarity. And that solidarity has to come from some level of diplomatic understanding for Taiwan's position in the world before it's too late.
Okay. I'd like to add something. I hope the politician, when the China talk about one China, they will say, yes, one China, but there is another one Taiwan. You know, Taiwan is ranking number 10 as a most democratic country, and ahead of the Germany. Germany is 12, and England, British is 14, number 14.
And US is probably lower.
I mean, yeah, the US is so lower. So Taiwan is the most open society in Asia, ahead of many European countries too. And for the economists, they have rated the richest country in the world. Usually I have to be humble teaching by the parents, but for my country I should say something. Taiwan is actually, we have better income than like Japan and Korea. We're doing pretty good. And also today the microchips, actually there's like oil before, very important. More than 20% of the microchip is produced in Taiwan, and more than 65 is in Taiwan. And advanced microchip we still keep in Taiwan. There's more than 92% is advanced. Yeah.
You make an incredibly important point there in terms of the economic leverage
Yes.
that Taiwan now has, and the shifting power over the decades has been really important. And I think you're right. Asian culture, you know, you're meant to be deferential and humble. This is not the time to be humble. This is the time to champion Taiwan. And as Vanessa says, Taiwan matters to all of us. So we do have time if any of you have a burning question for any of our panelists. I recognise that this might be pre-opportune, as you've not yet seen the film, but if you did want to throw up your hand and ask a question, then I'm very open to that. Otherwise, I will just ask one more question to Vanessa to draw our discussion to a close, and then we will all be able to watch the film together, and I'm sure at that point your heads will be bursting with information and desire to ask questions. So, last chance if anyone wanted to ask a question. Well, in that case, my final question to Vanessa comes in this, and the point of the film, we're in an academy for cultural diplomacy. We're thinking about how film can be a tool for cultural diplomacy. I think, as we won't ask this question afterwards, my question to you is what's next on the journey for the film? How is this film itself being used in the cultural diplomacy sphere?
I have to say that this experience being in Berlin with the Cinema for Peace Foundation and the World Forum, and the opportunity to have Taiwan's Ambassador Xie in Berlin see the film, and the foreign minister loved the film, and we're making headway already in a sense of cultural diplomacy in ways we never could have anticipated that are more profound than we probably know, and will be having ripple effects. But as a filmmaker, we're on the road with this movie to film festivals around the world for the rest of the year. We began in October, and we're continuing at least through October. We'll be in New Zealand, we'll be in Japan, South Korea, we've been in Australia, we're going to Poland, Czech Republic, Norway, Copenhagen, CPH Docs. We did IDFA in Amsterdam, which was a great big international premiere. We're doing tons of little regional festivals in the US and bigger festivals in the US. And these kinds of screenings, these are valuable. So if you know other people who are in other places who might want to invite our film in this kind of a forum, we're open to it. We're doing these special screenings alongside our festival screenings, and we plan to release probably around the time that President Tsai steps down in Taiwan in May, on May 20th, and then in the rest of the world, in the US, maybe in the fall. We may do an Oscar qualifying run. We'll see where we get. We won an award here. We won an award in the US at a good Oscar early predictor festival. So we're feeling very positive about the impact the film can have, and we're grateful to be working with Think Film on it. Thank you.
Oh, it's a joy from us. Well, as you can see, you're getting it on the ground floor here. You're seeing the film at an early stage. Much of its journey still lies ahead. President Tsai, once she's no longer a sitting president, is hopeful to join us on the journey as well. And there are many opportunities. We're looking at elections here in Europe. The US is about to have elections. The world can learn from the experience of Taiwan. There is much that this country, this small island nation, has to teach us. And there are many opportunities, we think, for the film to be a way in which Taiwan's voice can be heard, that Taiwan can be given a greater opportunity to contribute to the conversations that are happening geopolitically everywhere, and that it is a key linchpin for peace and stability, not just in the region, but globally as well. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to my panelists. Thank you. We're about to have some drinks and snacks. So if you're feeling like you're not in quite the right comfortable position to watch the film and you want to go and sit somewhere else in the room, that's absolutely fine. Grab a drink, grab some snacks, and kind of feel ready.
And we're on Instagram at Invisible Nation TW, and we'll be posting about our journey, where we've been, where we're going next. Some of that is already there, and you can direct message us on Instagram. You can find us pretty easily, but at Invisible Nation TW on Instagram. Yvonne, our producer. Yes, but these are students, aren't they? We're always raising money for our impact campaign, so if you know anyone who might want to get involved, and you'll see a QR code at the end of the film, and you can screenshot it, and you can also reach us that way on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back in like 5 minutes for the film.
Thank you.